Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and arrive at episode number 378. And remember, termites are people too. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
Good.
Good.
Did you guys have a good week?
It was all right.
It was an alright week.
It was kind of a short week, so we recorded later.
We did, yeah.
I feel like we were just here.
Yeah. Do anything fun?
Yes. I went and saw Rampage.
How is it? I saw it's like at 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, which makes it the highest rated video game movie ever.
It's dumb. It's so much fun. I loved it. It's that kind of movie.
You don't go into it expecting strong plot.
Yeah,
in fact,
no.
I heard that the plot that is there hampers it.
In a way. I mean, I give them credit. They tried really hard to give it a logic behind the proceedings, and in a way that, yeah, you're right. It's Independence Day level fun, because unlike so many of these movies that just took themselves so seriously, and just failed miserably.
Battleship.
Yeah. Well, up until the last third. And then it was like, yeah, all right. No, I mean, there's some really cartoon cardboard cutout villains. They are ridiculously over the top with a Rampage arcade machine in their office. It's in the background of every shot. It's like, it's a little on point, guys. Maybe I'm wrong. It's just a tad there. But it's dumb fun.
We watched Dunkirk.
What do you think?
It was pretty good. It wasn't amazing.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that feels that way.
It was really well done. I think its structure inhibits the film a little bit. It was good.
It's exceptionally well made.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone did a really good job in it.
Cool.
Yeah.
You do anything? Nope. Big excitement there at the Bartlett household.
That's right. Let's move on to news.
Well, in our news, Tiny Rebel Games has announced a few more details about Doctor Who Infinity.
Ooh.
So, they sent out an email to everyone who was subscribed to Doctor Who Legacy emails. A bit of details, including a trailer and kind of details of the first story, which is The Dalek Invasion of Time, written by George Mann.
Ooh.
It is...
I haven't got my email yet, if you can't tell.
It includes
it's all news to me.
The voice cast of Michelle Gomez, Ingrid Oliver, and Bella Ramsey. Bella Ramsey is Lyanna Mormont in Game of Thrones. It features the 12th Doctor predominantly, but it is a Missy and Bella Ramsey's character's story more than anything else. They have 5 additional stories underway, with each one centers on a different Doctor, classic and modern. They're going to announce the second story in a couple more weeks, which is firmly rooted in a classic Doctor Who, starring Katie Manning, and is told in a traditional multi-part story arc. There's also a video of some of the gameplay, which features very similar mechanics, but they've added a bit of, I don't know, what would you call it, Glenn? RPG, a bit more RPG to it.
Yeah.
A little bit more strategy, a little bit chess-esque.
There's a lot of board movement involved, as opposed to matching, along with matching gems, because that's
it's still a matching gems game.
Yeah, it's the same mechanic, but it's there are other pieces on the board that come in and move in, and it looks like they interact, and depending on where you place them on the board, yours versus the Daleks depends on who attacks who.
Okay.
If your character gets to the Dalek first, it defeats them. If they get to you first, they defeat you. That sort of thing.
On the base level, I'm sure that they'll.
I'm sure it gets more complex.
As you go on, it gets more complex, and there might
I
be
wonder
like
then if you may actually be not necessarily
matching.
matching gems too. You may be matching gems defensively to try and.
Yeah, I mean,
you do, because there's at one point if you match gems, then you bring in other players into the board. And so I think it's an offense-defense thing, too.
So would you consider this a sequel to Legacy, or...?
I don't know. The art is so different from Legacy, and I think it's really a stark difference. And I like it. I like the art of it. It's much more in lines of Titan Comics comic stories.
But did they have the artist? That's the guy that's done the poster art, poster art, like the Daleks one that I have with Davros.
Oh, okay.
Mike
Then
Collins.
The Fourth Doctor one that I have. That has
The super
scarf.
bright
Yeah,
comic, what we think of as comic book art.
Yep.
He also storyboards for the TV series.
Oh,
So that's pretty cool, too.
that is cool. I look forward to looking at my email.
That's what his art is. What I think of when I think of a Doctor Who comic. That's when I think of comic art. He does that kind of comic art. So
Yeah. It looks very pretty.
it does.
Should be fun. No, I haven't been able to track down a release date yet, but they say coming soon.
They're probably still ironing out some bugs before they.
Yeah. And they probably want to have chapter 2 or the second story close to ready so they can launch not long after the first story is released. So there's a story trailer and then there's a video walkthrough of Sue, right? Susan. Whoever it is over at
Lee and Susan.
Yeah, Susan. Kind of doing a little walkthrough of the gameplay and describing what was going on and whatnot, and how the game works.
We'll have to see about getting them back on the show.
Yeah.
What else in the news?
Give all our intrepid listeners something else to obsess over for a little bit.
In other news, Britishfest announced a Who guest. David Bush is going to be coming to the Omaha. You might say
To the Omaha?
to the
Omaha.
The Omaha. You might
Not
ask
just
who-
Omaha. It's the Omaha.
It's the Omaha.
You'd like to go to that convention, wouldn't you? Go see the Omaha.
The Omaha.
The Omaha.
So he worked on Shada. He's an animator and has worked on a variety of things, but Shada most recently. So he'll be there at panels signing Shada DVDs. No word if they're Region 1s or Region 2s. You might be getting a signed DVD you can't play because it still hasn't been released here.
But you could buy it there. Just may not be able to play it.
Right. Although if it's Blu-ray, most Blu-rays now are region free.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had pretty good luck with anything I've purchased up like Zabi or other sites. So, but that's cool.
That's pretty much it for the news.
Let's get into our reviews.
Cool.
Welcome to Valhalla, capital of Callisto, Jupiter's premier moon, where anything and everything is up for sale. But Valhalla isn't quite what it says on in the brochures. Not since Earth granted independence and cut off the supplies. The former doctor, for sale, excellent condition, visits the job center and finds power cuts, barcoded citizens, and monthly riots, all bookable. And then there's the problem with the termites.
Bum bum bum.
I wasn't overly impressed by
I
the
wasn't
story.
overly impressed. There are things that I liked and equally liked and equally did not like.
That's
about
why
the story.
the things that I liked get a bum bum bum. The things that I didn't are I'm not going to talk about.
Pretty much everything but the termites I liked. I thought there were some really cool ideas with all these humans being, barcoded and not realized and then going up for sale and all of that aspect. It's just the fact that it was being done by termites.
To be fair, I absolutely hated this story because it was termites until they explained that they were genetically mutated termites that had been planted there. So then I thought, okay.
They weren't just anthropomorphized.
Yes, they weren't
for no
anthropomorphized
reason.
for no reason. So that kind of brought my summation up because I went, okay, I wasn't liking the termites, but now they at least have a reason for the termites. But overall, the termites was a bit, I agree. I like the concept of this group of termites cataloging humans in order to sell or trade them throughout the universe, and I thought that was a clever idea. And the ruse of them living on a colony planet, the team up of the Queen and the Mayor to kind of both get what they want, and then she kind of backstabs him, and then him getting back. There were a lot of great concepts in it. It's just overall, I didn't like the three main people that were with the Doctor. I didn't think any of them was outstanding, even though one of them was Michelle Gomez.
Yeah.
I just didn't think
I
that.
kept thinking she sounded familiar. who is this chick? And then I went and looked and went, oh!
It wasn't until I listened to the extras on the CD that I went, oh, that's Michelle Gomez. She didn't. Her voice didn't even sound familiar to me until I got there, and I went, "Oh, okay, I can see it now." The characters I didn't. First of all, I was quite confused a lot of times as to what was going on, and I think that was part of the problem because there was a lot of randomness and loose threads very early on that left for a lot of confusion. And the one gal, I thought she was dead, and then she turns up later
with no explanation.
And the guy was just some brute idiot that he was there for conflict, but I think that was basically his only role in the whole thing because there was no heroism for him, there was no redeeming quality for him, there was no redemption.
He never got anything. He never got his moment.
I thought he doesn't even really have to be there other than to be kind of comic relief every once in a while. And the one thing that I did like was every time the doctor would leave, he would say, "Oh, we're never going to see him again," and then the doctor would show back up. And I thought, okay, you're doing that for comedic effect, but after the third or fourth time, you really don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah. He was definitely there more to try to be a foil to the doctor when the termites weren't available.
Right, exactly, which was unnecessary, to be quite honest with you.
Because who can foil with the doctor?
This is another one of those
really.
situations, too, where the doctor... It's sometimes frustrating because... And the Seventh Doctor does this frequently, and it's within his character, but the Seventh Doctor always seems to know what's going on, but never lets anybody else in on it. And it's really frustrating because either A, as a listener, you figure it out as you go along, and
then you're kept in the dark.
Or you don't figure it out, and then you're frustrated when it's finally divulged that you feel like he should have had some wheels turning much earlier than he did.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like he is the chess player. He's playing the pieces and he's playing it out. And that's always the way that they've always kind of wanted to go with the doctor. But sometimes that's frustrating because it feels like you kind of put people in harm's way inappropriately. And I think that this is another one that exploits that problem that I have sometimes with the Seventh Doctor. That being said, I really liked the Doctor. I liked Sylvester McCoy's performance in this. I like the Seventh Doctor at this time, where it's my impression that Ace is gone and Benny's gone, and he's really kind of at a point in his life where I think he's ready to be done. He's ready to be done.
To the movie.
Yeah, and so I really like when they explore that because I think there's some of that was built to in the Virgin New Adventures. And I'm really excited to kind of get through those because you can kind of see that that perception of the Doctor that they started to try to do in that season 26 that they would have done had they gone on, I think, on the TV series under Andrew Cartmel. But you kind of see that, and I like seeing that glimpse of the late Seventh Doctor era that we don't get a lot of because even in Big Finish we get a lot of him and Ace, or when we do get Benny, we get still sort of that middle ground of clown versus dark, And so I like that. I liked that aspect of this. That was really cool. And a lot of because a lot of times when the Doctor's, any other incarnation of the Doctor's on his own, he seems to kind of wallow in self-pity. Whereas this Doctor isn't necessarily wallowing in self-pity. It's almost like when other Doctors do it, you don't feel as bad for them because a lot of times they've put themselves in that situation, or they've miscalculated something and ended up on a planet for 900 years with jellyfish. But and so you kind of feel like, well, you kind of put that to yourself. When the Seventh Doctor does it, you kind of get the impression that he's really been dealt a bad hand. He's really been dealt
especially
the worst cards.
Truly knowing what led up to this point,
right?
either.
And but he also doesn't deal with it in that he's wallowing in self-pity. He may say something that is has that self-pity element to it, but then he'll turn around and say something else that recognizes, why he's there or why he's at this point in his life, or, well, I can't really kind of be down on myself because, and so he just, there's such a good balance with the Seventh Doctor when he does do that I really enjoy seeing
he may be wallowing in self-pity, but he's also got the self-deprecating humor still. So,
yeah, it's not even self-deprecating humor. It's almost like he recognizes why he's in a situation. He just knows it's not like he's continuous, oh, woe is me. It's kind of the woe is me. On the other hand, I did, or on the other hand, I do need to do this, so it's kind of that. They strike a really good balance, I think.
I agree. The whole idea of the human colony kind of being unsustainable, and so we're going to sell everybody off as slave labor to whatever race wants to bid on them. It was like, ooh, okay, yeah, that's kind of cool. And I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. They kept talking about termites. Oh, the termites in the walls. Yeah, they're big or something like that. And I kept thinking, it's Cybermats. This is a Cyberman story. This is going to be great. There were no Cybermen in the story.
It would have improved it.
We've got a signal. There's something coming in. Oh, the Daleks are going to come for the Doctor. This is going to be great. There are no Daleks in this story. And so I kind of kept waiting for when is the big bad going to show up? And I was really quite taken aback by the fact that the big bad were the termites. I was like, really?
You're your own worst enemy.
I am.
You know that?
I set myself up for these huge expectations.
It's like a broken record. Every week we come to this show and we talk about something we review. And when you aren't so pleased with it, it always boils down to the fact that you had different expectations for the story.
I feel like not even expectations. I just feel like, because I didn't know anything about this going into it. I did not know Ace wasn't in this.
Well, but you're having different expectations as you go.
Yeah.
Because when you hear something, you say, "Oh, maybe it's that." It's like you're setting them up to let you down every time.
I am totally I am the kid in the candy store. I go into everything with my nose pressed up against the glass, going, "What is it? What is it? What is it?" Aw. It's that. Every unboxing, you got me socks. That's just what
Christmas must suck around your house.
It does. It really does. What's it? Because the box is potential. And then you open it and it's like, oh, it's socks. You can't do anything with socks.
You can wear them.
If I need socks, I'll go buy socks. So yeah, I just kind of kept. I just feel like I was set up for, it's going to be this, and then it wasn't. It is actually termites. I liked the fact that Ace wasn't in it, and that we don't know why. I felt it was kind of clever that of the multitude of versions of what happened to Ace, well, he's kind of mopey, like maybe she died. But he could also be mopey because she stayed on Gallifrey to become,
She didn't die.
A Time Lord or whatever.
She didn't die, though. I mean, we already know that it's established that she left him. But
yeah, but I mean, it's there's one. It's not canon, but there's one.
Well, that's the problem. It's not canon, so she didn't die.
But
so we know that this is the at least canonized continuity of it all.
Right. But I like the fact that they played with that. That there was never a definitive line that said, well, she's off at the academy.
Yeah, but I know
I'm on my own.
Well, but that's different too, because when she's off at the academy, it's not he wouldn't be moping about that. That was his ultimate goal.
No, but
it would
still hit him that she's
there's
gone.
A period where she goes off and I don't want to expound on it because we haven't got there yet. Yeah. But there's something that happens with Ace that's even worse than her going off to the academy to be a time.
Yeah, I mean, because there's they have a falling out and she leaves. There's they don't have a falling out, but she still leaves him to go to the academy. And then there's she dies. There's Ace has got like multiple.
Schrodinger's.
She's Schrodinger's companion.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I liked the fact that they left it open. That he was mopey, but just not mopey enough. And then he started auditioning. Because you know me, I love companion auditions. And I'm like, oh, here we go.
And I thought him and Jevon's chemistry was fantastic.
Yeah.
I think some of that is the fact that it's Michelle Gomez and him probably just playing off each other so much, and two Scots just having a ball.
It took me a little bit to kind of get, because when they first encounter each other down in the tunnels, I was like you. I didn't like it. But as it went on, I felt like
she was the only one of the extra people that I liked.
Yeah.
Everyone else could
they
leave
termites
to
could
the
have
termites.
Everybody, and I wouldn't have cared.
Yeah.
But as it went on, I can't even say necessarily that she got better, but her interactions with the Doctor got better. It got more entertaining as it went on.
Part of it is, I mean, when she first meets him, she doesn't trust him and is suspicious, so we don't trust her because she doesn't trust our hero.
Right.
And then as she grows to trust him and like him, and so we grow to trust and like her more, too.
Yeah, I grew to trust her. I didn't grow to like her. But I do like the end of this, where he's basically inviting her to go along, and she says no. And, while they've done that before... Yeah, they've done that before. It's a nice change of pace for somebody not to go sure and hop on board, So
well, and admittedly, as far as auditions go, the Doctor didn't give the best interview. I mean, you didn't go off planet and see a wondrous thing that then turned rotten. You caught her in the middle of a pretty rotten day that got worse. And then you kind of fixed it, but not until you kind of waited. Until
they still have to leave home.
Yeah, at that point, the colony has failed, So, and I ruminated on that for a little bit. That I in a way, I kind of feel like we're in a rut with world-ending stories on Big Finish. But that's something you can do in audio. You can end the world versus, on television where it's expensive. So I can't really fault them for swinging for the fences in that regard. I like swarms. I like hive mentality. I like unstoppable waves of bugs coming to get our heroes. And so I thought that was going to be cool. But man, it wasn't. They're termites. They're just
the best part of the termite story, I thought, was when the Doctor disguises himself as a termite and goes undercover, and then the other two follow suit and do the same.
Yeah, except he
that
did
was
it,
the most fun I had while listening to the.
Except
termites.
He did it so badly.
That was part of why it was so much. Why I liked it so much.
Yeah, well, and don't get me wrong,
because it didn't go well at all.
Yeah, it didn't go well at all.
And it wasn't what I expected to happen, so I was pleasantly surprised by that aspect.
But to what Glenn was saying is that this is very structured to feel like late Seventh Doctor March to the movie. Yeah. What you said, but this was very more clownish and kind of back to the. And I thought for sure when the one term, what's the code word of the day? Well, you've said it like 10 times, man. You keep giving them to the thought of the day. I know what it is. And the Doctor didn't know, and I went, what do you mean you don't know what this is?
I thought we were going to get more mixed metaphors than we did.
I guess it gave the pseudo-companions an excuse to come out of the TARDIS and help him out. But
yeah,
I don't know. It just... there were things that I really liked that I felt worked, and there was a lot of it that didn't, and everything that didn't just kind of really seemed to stem around the termites, other than the Queen. But we've had kind of long lines of fairly awesome Queen bugs that, wear and dawn, or this, that, or the other. And the Doctor's dispatching of her, yeah, she's dead. Oh, okay.
Go find a new queen.
They all fly away. Okay. It seemed like an inordinately amount of running around for that.
Yeah, and it feels like it's one of those things where if the Doctor weren't there, it might not have made as much of a difference. She still would have died because she was dying anyways, and they would have gone off and done their thing. So as far as defeating the termites, nothing would have been different if the Doctor wasn't there.
I was glad that it didn't come to it didn't come to a genocide, which was kind of cool. It could have very easily gone I'm going to wipe out the whole colony situation, and not just the humans, but the bugs. But it just I wanted. I don't know. Once they set those stakes up, I really wanted the stakes to go through the roof with. Here it is. This is the threat that so and so has arrived, and they're going to buy all the humans. And it's like, oh, it's these people. Or the Daleks show up and they're like, we're not paying you for anybody. We're just going to take over. Thanks for sending the signal. Okay, that to me would have been well, you thought you knew what you were doing, but haha.
Right.
And I didn't get that. So the rest of it just kind of laid there. It felt like it was a whole box of potential. And then I opened it and got socks.
Yep. I agree.
I feel bad I didn't like the story better since it was Mark Platt.
Yeah, that was the other thing is it's very much written in his style.
Yeah.
And it's very much written like Ghostlight. And in fact, at times when I would get confused as to what was going on, or wondering if there was a higher concept that I was missing, a lot of times I would think, okay, it's Mark Platt. It's probably going to require me to listen to it again in order to get it, because I remember Ghostlight not landing well with me the first time, and then the second or third viewing, finally going, okay, I think I actually like this story. And I really got to like the story when I...
Once we did that deep dive.
Yeah, when we did the deep dive. Well, and we did they had the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Yeah.
And then we read the book, too,
Yeah.
and that really helped a lot. So the book kind of fleshed a lot of it out. So maybe he'll write a book for Valhalla. Or maybe they'll do an interview with him, some behind-the-scenes. But anyway, it's one of those ones that I am reserving for one of these days. I'll have to revisit this and see if I like it better. So
Yeah, it's just unfortunately it's not one that I'm looking forward to revisiting. Whereas Ghostlight, I was so morbidly curious about what was going on that I wanted to re-listen to it. This one I didn't feel as ambiguous about or as lost throughout most of it. I felt like I had a pretty good grasp of what was going on, and I just didn't like it.
This one, too, also had a nice pace to it. There was never a lot of downtime or slow parts where I kept feeling like, okay, just get on with the action or get on with the story. So it paced really well, and I felt like it was a quick listen to me. I mean, you can't listen to any of them quicker than they are because they are, but it felt faster than it probably was. So I think I could listen to it again, but no, not right away.
Yeah. I said I didn't hate it.
That's my line. I didn't hate it.
There were termites. What? They weren't even space termites. They were just kind of, we genetically engineered these termites. Okay.
All right. Well, should we move on to the comic?
Ghost Stories. When we last saw Grant, Lucy, and Jennifer in the return of Dr. Mysterio, they were settling down together as a family, and Grant's superhero costume was safely stored away. But that wasn't the end of the story. Now the Doctor is swooping back into their lives because the alien gem that gifted Grant his powers has counterparts all over the universe. It's up to the Doctor, Grant, Lucy, and Jennifer to track them down to prevent cosmic disaster.
So Stephen Moffat decides, how can we, what's really popular right now? Comic book heroes. Let's write a comic book hero Doctor Who story. So he writes and he puts out on a TV. And then George Mann, who I have a lot of respect for and enjoy a lot of his writing, decides, well, how can we make this even more comic booky? Let's add Infinity Gems.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Yep.
And Infinity Gems smacked all over it. Now, it wasn't one guy trying to get them for a glove to destroy half the universe, but...
No, it was the Sycorax trying to get them for their spaceships to destroy half the universe.
It's just the one.
Thanks, Glenn. Now my estimation really dropped on it.
So... The only shining light to this entire 4-part series, which isn't, you can't even, it was a 4-part arc, but the weird thing is
the editing.
Stories end in the middle of the books sometimes, which was really weird. Most times, yes. But the shining light that completely blinked out at the end was, he has to give the stone up. Okay, well, that fixes everything. We don't have to have superheroes in the Doctor Who universe anymore. Oh, wait. If you really believe...
It changed your DNA.
Clap your hands and wish.
When he says that, I thought you said you couldn't get it back because it, transformed my DNA. I thought, oh, don't you do that. You take that thing out. Don't let that melt. And then it went through and I was like, dang it. So this whole thing was crap. I didn't like any of it. I didn't like any of the story. And the funny thing is, for 3 weeks I've been going, no, I'm kind of excited to read this. I'm not going to, have any expectations. Yep. This whole thing was crap.
Wasn't there a huge inconsistency in it also? Didn't they say it was like 8 years later?
It was 8 years later.
Wasn't the kid like an infant?
Yeah. And so she was...
How is she 11 now?
Yeah, that's what I kind of wondered myself.
He was the nanny.
There's no way that math works.
She was a toddler at the time, right? Wasn't she?
No,
I think she was...
She wasn't walking
yet?
No,
because we had big issues with him leaving the baby.
Yeah, the baby monitor and the whole bit.
At the max, Gemma's age of 9 months.
Yeah, so
There's no way she's 11.
She wasn't shy age of 2.
That was an issue.
absolutely
Yeah,
not.
you're right. She would have had to been 2 for her to be even close to 11. Because sometimes when you're 10 and a half, you say you're 11. But
Yeah. I thought there were parts of it that worked, that they kind of took.
oh, tell me which ones.
Well, the idea that we took this silly. First of all, the doctor shows up. That was a huge relief to me because I didn't know I thought they were
That
just.
was just going to be.
that
ghost
was
I
stories.
my
thought it was
first
just gonna do
strike
ghost
against
stories.
the comic book because then I thought, okay, if the doctor doesn't show up, then I can just say, well, this is a comic story, and the doctor had plopped himself down in some sort of comic story, and that totally decanonizes it. He popped into some alternate universe, and it was a comic book world. And
which they had done before and you didn't like.
yeah, well, but at least I could wipe
the
that
boneless?
one out and say, okay, we'll chalk it up to that. That's my head canon. But no, the doctor shows back up, which legitimizes it again.
I think it made it easier to read. I was really not looking forward to these because I thought it was just going to be Grant. I thought it was just going to be superhero stories with Grant, and that it was branded Doctor Who, but it was going to be Superman in the Doctor Who universe, and I really had no desire to read it. So when the doctor showed up, I was like, oh, well, okay, at least he's going to hold my hand through this train wreck. But then the superhero stuff that they did, it worked.
No, it didn't.
It
Because
worked.
Grant didn't do a dang thing through the
No,
whole
he-
book.
no, he didn't.
It's called Ghost Stories, and the doctor and what's her name, the wife, Lucy, and even the little girl. Which I'm glad they gave them something to do, and glad they gave them pieces to be the heroes. But you called it Ghost Stories, and he's doing hardly anything. The doctor has to tell him. The doctor has to tell him that he has to go change the smoke's mind. Well, it was even the daughter that planted that idea as well.
The daughter is the hero of the story more than anybody else.
Yeah, really.
The doctor and the ghost have to be saved from the Harmony Shoal guys that have got them locked up.
When your superhero's life is in danger for 2 of the cliffhangers, there's an issue.
Yes. It's called Ghost
I'm
Stories.
surprised it wasn't the third one, too.
In a way, that's what made
In a
it.
way, it was
Well,
the third one, too.
in a way, that's what
Wasn't
made
I
it
think
work.
was.
And I say this because if Grant did everything, if the doctor said, come with me, I need your help, and Grant did all the work because he's the superhero, after issue 1, it would have been boring and repetitive and silly.
Right, agreed.
And so
give him the first one.
The fact that he comes in and immediately flies off doing the superhero stuff, which maybe it's just the fact that it was in comic book format, I felt better with it as opposed to the televised Doctor Who episode, which is like, okay, well, this is at least where the story belongs.
That's why I thought it would be better with it.
But then to kind of flip that on its ear and do the Superman doesn't have the oomph that he needs help from the family or from the this or from the
Right.
Okay, and you have to give the doctor something
There's
to
also
do.
a lot of it he's not smart enough to do it on
Well,
his own.
that was the frustrating thing is I felt like they really dumbed. I didn't get the impression from the episode that Grant was this stupid. But
No,
man,
I agree. I
they
totally
made
agree
him
with that.
stupid in this comic because he's all about look at me and my fists, because that's how he solves every problem. Anyway, well, that's how he attempts to solve every problem in this
Right.
comic book is just to go beat it into submission.
Right.
And even the doctor's like, that's not how this works. You can't. Why are you? And then he'd come back and tell him, "Oh, you can still fly." I kind of wanted him to fall off the building. Fell for that too. Huh? Fell. See what I did there? It's more of a 6th Doctor gag than a 12th. I felt like it started off okay,
Yes.
and then you're right. It went downhill, and it went downhill pretty quick. And I almost hate to say this. Part of the problem definitely was the editing. The fact that the stories ended in weird spots and then we're picking up in the middle of the comic with the next adventure. I almost feel like it needed to be longer. Go ahead and give it 6 issues.
No.
Give it an intro issue where you get to flesh things out.
No.
Each of the middle 4 is a separate go tell the story. And then give it a wrap up at the end that genuinely makes sense, because I felt like the ending was really truncated and just kind of like, oh, we're done. and I mean, there was a part of me was like, thank God.
Yeah, I was glad to get to the finish line.
But
on it. I was like,
but I just feel like 4 issues. I feel like knowing Mann, what we've read of George Mann, and he handles comic books. I mean, he's writing which one is it?
he wrote Supremacy of the Cybermen.
Yeah.
Which one of the ongoing ones is his? I don't remember if it's the 12th
No,
Doctor
he's
or
written
not.
He's dipped into them, I think. He's done arcs
he
for
has done
ongoing.
some arcs, but he wrote did he write the 8th Doctor stories, or he wrote one of the miniseries?
Yeah, I can't remember
Whichever one he's done. I mean, he's done this before, and we've genuinely, traditionally liked his stuff before. So for him to come in and deliver this is either A, because of the subject matter, or B, that it's just it was poorly executed. And I want to err on the side of execution versus the side of no, it's just a turd of a story. But maybe that's it.
A problem that I had with the first story is we go to the future, which seems to be the pretty near future. I mean, they're gone, obviously, but it's near future.
People remember the ghost.
A future that the Doctor says isn't supposed to happen. They confront the smoke. They convince him to turn back and be good in the error of his ways, and then they leave. Which means that future's still going to happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They need to go back and keep him
from doing it. Now, I don't have a problem with this except for the Doctor saying a future that's not supposed to happen. Because if it's a future that's not supposed to happen, it's the Doctor's responsibility to make sure the timeline gets back on track. Not fix the situation in the future and then leave it the way it was.
Or justify that at the end with Grant giving up the powers permanently to make sure that future doesn't come into being.
Yes,
okay, you've now fixed that.
There as well.
You fixed two problems with that.
Right,
but no, that was a huge... And I mean, admittedly, the Doctor's never been one about, we have to make sure this doesn't happen. Very rarely do we get that element of the story. Most of the time it's the Doctor laying, oh, look, the Daleks have invaded London. I guess we're just going to have to organize resistance and fight them.
Sure.
And knowing that this is going to happen, every time he visits London in the past, I sit there and go, you all going to die? I know it's coming. Why doesn't he say anything?
The thing is, though, when you make a statement, a future that's not supposed to happen,
right?
It's clearly something has
He never
skewed.
said that about
He's
the
never
Dalek
said that
invasion.
about anything else that's
true.
happened.
It's obviously
Well, he has said
timeline.
that before, but he never said it in those situations.
Yeah, no. It's, I think Omega is, here we are, Earth 1980.
Yeah.
Or not Omega, Anubis. No.
No.
Sutek. I'll get there eventually.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of a big problem. And then I liked Harmony Shoal coming back. I thought that was kind of a clever...
It was nice seeing them actually be successful as a villain.
Well,
a little bit.
It was nice seeing the villain be successful.
Yeah. 'Cause I thought he was the most interesting part of that of the Return of the Doctor Mysterio. So,
Oh, also,
it justified a lot of Dr. Mysterio for me by giving us this kind of hindsight of how
This is
Harmony
what
Shoal
they were
would have
trying to
worked.
do.
It was like,
Oh, yeah.
okay, I see where, because I feel like the main plot of Dr. Mysterio got lost so that we could go, look, we're doing a superhero thing.
Yeah,
oh yeah,
yeah.
So,
absolutely.
yeah, I agree. I thought
I
that
also
was cool.
thought the backstory of the races on the planet I thought was interesting too.
Very interesting. Yeah.
I could have dealt with a lot more of that, honestly. A lot more world building of that kind of stuff. And then the third part is, the Sycorax are back.
Well, I was okay with that because we don't see the Sycorax very often. So I was like, okay, let's see what these guys are doing.
That was my first thought. It was, okay, cool. Maybe this will be like, maybe they'll be cool.
It's the same plot that they used last time.
Well, except for this time they were going to kill off millions of
They just had
billions
a stone
of
to
people.
They had an Infinity Stone to do it with.
You're
The Bloodstone.
You're a one-trick pony, aren't you? Okay.
And the classic Doctor's New Monster story with them. That's kind of the same thing.
Is
too.
it really?
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
That's all they do.
Sometimes you get them, the Slovene show up and you get a slightly different twist on them and you're like, oh, okay, you're still not my favorite, but at least you're... No. The Sycorax they're just the Sycorax. And then I felt like that whole part with Grant using his super hearing to hear Lucy's in danger, and he flies off, and she's already beaten the tar out of this guy. She's like, I don't need you. Where's the kid? She's up there doing her thing.
She doesn't need you.
She doesn't need you. You want to lift? All right, if you're off her.
It'll make it a little easier.
Why is there a superhero in this story?
That's my point. That's my whole point.
It really falls down on the you didn't set this up well.
And I would have been fine with. I'm glad that they gave everybody, especially since you're going to tag the family along.
Which was a bad idea to begin with.
Well, but they were.
I know.
They invited themselves on.
So again, going back to the superhero thing. Rule 1, you have a hidden identity.
Don't take the family with you.
So that your family doesn't get in danger. I'm only going if we bring them. Didn't the doctor just tell you that the whole universe is at stake and you need... What? Grant is dumb. Just no other way around it. He's just dumb.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I cut you. Go ahead.
I don't remember what I was even saying. So.
Don't bring the family.
Yeah, don't bring the family.
Gist.
I would have been okay if Grant had...
Or at least they were given something to do.
If this, I was glad they were at least given something to do since they came along. But I kind of wish Grant had been. Maybe this should have been a training period for him to kind of learn different. As you said, he always was the brute force guy. He'd come in and start beating things up, and that's how he solved everything. I would have been okay with this series had it been him learning different aspects of being a superhero, which they kind of tried to do that. But the problem is they don't give him enough to do. Because he's always sidelined by other things, and somebody else is having to do the grunt work. And so
he gets lectured to a lot, but doesn't get to do any of the learning himself.
Right.
Yeah. Well, is it just me, or is it weird that it's the second adventure that he loses his powers? I mean, I guess traditionally that's pretty standard for superhero movies, so maybe that was done on purpose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it feels like that should have been at the end. Like he should have been the instrument of, I fixed it, I can't fix it. And then the family comes to the rescue. And
that would have worked.
It becomes the Incredibles. And it's like, oh, all right, cool, go team. No, we don't get that either.
I also didn't like how there were different artists for each issue.
Oh, I'm fine with that. I'm always, again, I'm very much an apologist for the artwork on comics, but I always like a fresh look, especially when you're going through a longer arc of stories. I always like to see different interpretations, different takes. Some of them are more pleasing than others because I think a lot of times we prefer the more realism or at least the copying the look of. But sometimes I think it's nice to kind of it breaks things up for me to be able to see some different styles.
See, I think I prefer one artist for an arc, and the next arc do a different artist. That I'm okay with, but switching...
It's a lot of drawing, though.
It's like...
It's a lot of drawing.
It is.
Doing 4 issues, it's not like it's a 6-issue arc or something.
No, but that's still a lot of drawing. That's a lot of panels. In fact, you'll find, even in comics, just main series, that you'll see a lot of artists cycle in and out because that is a lot of... The hardest part of doing a comic book... The hardest part of doing a comic book is doing all of that artwork. I mean, storying is nothing because you come up... Well, I'm not underselling the stories, but the story is not a lot because you're basically penning... you're plotting the story out, and then you're truncating the pieces in order to fit it into these panels. Very little to do there, and you have to give enough to the artist. The artist has to spend, sometimes hours on just one panel.
And I think I'm more forgiving of the alternating artists when it's an ongoing range and they got monthly deadlines, but when you're doing a 4-part issue and you can release it whenever, there's no real rush.
There is a rush because there's a marketing system in place. They wanted to get this out close enough to the series. I don't even remember when it came out. If they hadn't got this,
a while after.
I think it was still done monthly, but it was done a while after the Christmas special.
I don't think it was even well, but you couldn't get too far away, and that's the thing is once the televised thing airs, they have to get on it, get the rights, and that's probably what takes the time. But you still want it close enough so that people will remember it, because if you get it too far out and people pick it up, they go, "This is like from 3 years ago. I don't care about this character anymore." So there's a lot of things around that. I think that they want to make sure that they get the ball rolling, and they make sure it's the same thing with any tie-in that they do to anything that's going on in the television. They try to mirror certain things. They want to make sure it's and a villain pops up here. They want to see if they can get that villain in there. A new villain gets popped up here. They want to get it close to when it came out because they're trying to capitalize on popularity.
I see where you're coming from, and I don't disagree. But
I guess you're right. It did come out. The first issue came out December 26th, 2016.
I thought it was really close.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
I remember us reviewing it, and one of you guys saying, "Well, this isn't the end of the Ghost because they've got a comic book series coming out." So I remembered it was.
So they must have jumped on it quick then.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you from the standpoint, and I am also forgiving. But in Keith's defense, this would be, because this is a 4-part arc, it would be the equivalent of bringing in a different director and production designer for each segment of a 4-part episode of Classic Who. Each one would have a different visual style.
Yes.
And I think that would be jarring.
Again,
it wouldn't bother me so much.
It's equal in the sense of that's the reality of it. But when you're talking about
hindsight.
Plotting out, when you're talking about
it's
plotting
a lot
out
of work.
a story, you've got to.
And I think were the story, if George Mann had, quite honestly, if he had done a better job of truncating or bringing it down so that each issue was encapsulated, darn it, if he had done a better job of encapsulating it so that each issue was the adventure, and then the next issue started with the new adventure, that change in artist
that would have worked. Yeah,
would have worked
agreed.
better, because now we're going on a different adventure.
Yeah.
But when it's still, I'm still on the Sycorax spaceship, but it doesn't look like the Sycorax spaceship that you showed me last issue.
Sure.
That is I have to reset my brain now, and it takes me out of the story.
Well,
so I see where you're coming from.
The other
with
thing
that.
that to our detriment is we always read these as collections. We don't read them monthly. You wouldn't notice it as much if you read
That's
it
probably
month to
true.
month.
Yeah, that's probably true too. And just as a side note, the one it works for the Dark Tower, where it's the really they're very beautifully done, but they're kind of almost stark paintings with like solid background colors, and there's not much going on, but it really kind of draws your attention to the figures. I think it works really well because the Dark Tower is done that way. That didn't work for me for Doctor Who. I want to see something going on. They put a Starfield or something in where it's just there's something kind of back there in the background of the Harmony Shoal stuff that was going on in that. I think it was the 3rd issue that started off that way, and it was.
They did have a lot of non-background work on that, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
It's
whole,
because
that
they
whole issue was
But it's
the
because they
paint
spent
style.
so much time on the 2 panels that showed the city with all the different neon and all that. They spent so much time on those that they were like, we're just going to focus on the action here.
You wonder sometimes if the artist goes, look at this awesome splash panel I did. That's great. You realize your deadline's tomorrow, right? Oh. No. Here you go. Here's the rest of it. But, yeah,
it's...
I don't know. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if
it's not your job to fix it. That's the other thing. Every week, I know you want to be constructive, but it's like a broken record. You come in, you don't like something, you say, I don't know how to fix this. You don't have to fix it. It's broken and it's done. We move on to the next project.
I think there's a reason there's not going to be a Ghost Stories Part 2.
Yes. That's why it ended in 2017.
because Grant is dumb. At the end, he fell off the building and didn't actually have powers. The end.
They could have fixed it by not giving him his powers back.
Yeah, I actually would have been okay with... no. It would have been slightly better had they not ended up with his powers again.
Yeah.
I mean, they wanted the fairy tale ending. They wanted the happy comic book ending.
He still had his family. He got a fairy tale ending.
Well, here's another way.
He's alive. His family's alive.
You go through everything exactly the same, and then at the end, Grant comes up and is the one to come up with, I've got to give up my powers, don't I? If he's the one to realize it instead of being told it,
and being forced to do it.
Okay, that shows some character growth, and you get that moment with, are you sure? Yes, it's time. That's a good arc for him.
I still got the impression he was given the option.
Yeah,
It's not like he was going to turn it down,
he
but he
said
was
no.
given the option.
And let the universe die.
And the universe would have died, yeah. It makes you wonder, though. See, now I'm curious. We've built this engine, and its purpose is to open a portal to a dimension with no people. There's no life in it. And we're just going to bleed off this dark energy to save our own. And every 10 billion years, or whatever the time frame was.
It was a million years. Every
million years, we've got to fire this thing up. How did you guys lose the crystals from the last time to now? What happened?
You had one job.
Yeah. And the doctor even says, they've been caretakers here for forever. Well, obviously they're not very good. This is what you are the literal definition of you've got one job.
None of that bothered me. What bothered me was we're going to siphon off all of this dark energy into an uninhabited universe, and my first thought was, how do you know it's uninhabited?
Because we keep pumping dark energy into it. Nothing lives
There's
there.
no way nothing can live there now.
Have you visited this universe? Have
In the
you
last million
explored this entire universe
In
to
the
find
last
out
million years?
what if there's somebody out on the very edge of the universe that's not near this hole, and in 3 million years the dark matter comes to them?
What a
Stick
really
their head through. Nope, no one here.
What'll really bake your noodle is when you find out that it's actually our universe in the future, and that's why Utopia sees all the stars going out because it's just all dark energy. It's surrounding everything until it kills it.
No, what it is it's the was it Mysterious Planet? No, what was the one with the antimatter beast in the hole that had a monster in a pit? But it was the one we did right after.
Planet of Evil.
Planet of Evil. That's probably really that universe, and although that dark energy's been pushing it closer to us.
That's why it's coming out.
That's why it's coming out.
Okay, let's write that. See, all of a sudden now the story is like,
Yes,
give me
as
another
long as
part.
I don't have to include Grant in it.
Yes.
The only thing I think Grant's going to be good for is the punchline. The future companion comes along, and we join the conversation midstream. Wait, like legit superhero? Yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah, the TV's never obligated to acknowledge the comics. It would be a nice.
But he was in the
nod,
TV,
but-
unfortunately. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not.
Oh, I
just
guess
comic
that's
book.
true. Yeah. Well, that's me trying to say that was just a comic world thing. That's
Glenn
right.
has already written.
I have
this.
already written
He
that
has
one out.
so retconned this whole thing.
What do we got coming up on the schedule?
Well, coming up next week on the schedule, we are going to be talking Whobots. What's a Whobot, you ask? I can hear him thinking it.
What's a hoop?
Thanks, Glenn. I thought you'd never ask. It's a bot that's in Doctor Who.
What's a bot?
A bot, by our definition, is going to be a robot or mechanism of some sort that is
mechanoid of
not
some sort?
a mechanoid, you could say, that is not have any organic parts to it and is not an android. So we're not talking Daleks and Cybermen because they have organics, and we're not going to talk like the legit
Android Zatara?
Yeah, because they're a little too lifelike. But now, if we wanted to talk the Android invasion, I would be okay with that, even though we're not really talking
They're a
to people.
little too lifelike too.
They're way
Not
too
when,
lifelike.
not when her face falls off.
Well, not when their face falls off, but they're
You
no
can say
different
that's
than
about
the
any
Android
Android.
Zatara.
Okay, so we're gonna
When
have,
its face falls off.
so we're outlawing androids altogether. We're talking the actual clunky retro robots, so things like the K1 and K9, and
What about
the Vox robots and the mechanoids and the Chumblies and the War Machines,
the Raston,
Rassilon robot.
no, not Rassilon, Raston, the quick one. Now I've forgotten.
the Power Ranger?
No, yeah, the Power Ranger robot, the one that looks like.
I thought it was a Rassilon robot.
Not Rassilon. It's like Rassilon, isn't it?
It's like Raston.
It's Raston. Oh yeah,
The Raston robot,
Raston something robot.
the robot of Rassilon.
It's not the Raston.
Raston Warrior Robot.
Warrior. Raston robot.
Raston Warrior is
Raston
what it was.
Warrior,
Yeah, okay. It's not Rassilon Warrior.
Oh, he brought it there. Well, he didn't bring it there, but it wasn't actually a robot from the dark zone.
What about the dreadlocked ones? Trying to remember.
Oh yeah, the Movellans. They totally count. They're robots.
But aren't those more
They're like
androids?
No.
Yeah,
They look like humans.
they have flesh, organic.
But as soon as you pull the power pack on the outside of their body off of them, they fall
but
over.
they have organic.
Do they?
Yeah, they have an organic outside.
Oh well, if they have, well,
They have organic outside for sure.
okay. If it's if you're going to classify that as an organic outside, then no, we can't talk about the Movellans either.
Let's see how many we
This
can
is
come
what's
up
going to be
with
the
that can
whole
get eliminated.
episode.
Yeah, this is-
What about this one? How about this?
I hope
Does
you're
this
looking.
count?
I hope you're looking forward to next week as much as I am looking forward to defending the topic that they're supposed to be discussing instead of classifying the topic.
I already know which ones Keith's going to bring. So
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about those yet. Got to find a reason to outlaw those, Glenn. That's your homework assignment for this week.
outlaw what? Quarks?
Yeah.
I wouldn't outlaw quarks. I love
Quarks
quarks.
are awesome.
I love quarks.
Anyway, I'll find a reason.
There is no reason. You can never outlaw Quark.
I'll find
They're
a.
too
I'll
awesome.
I'll find a way. But so we're going to talk that and have some fun with robots, and then the following week we what?
The schedule's not posted, so
This,
I don't know
well,
what's the following week.
the schedule's not posted, but it will be.
It's all coming out of Sean's brain right
It's
now.
all just blah.
So subject to change.
Squirrel. The following week is bum 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 Keeper of Traken.
Woo!
Finally,
Finally.
I really ought to make you do those out of order.
You can make me review them out of order. Doesn't mean
You,
you can
you
make
know
me watch
why?
them out of order.
You know why, right?
No, I didn't seek it out.
You cheated.
I didn't cheat.
You totally
I
cheated.
never
you,
sought out spoilers
You
for it.
went to the internet.
I
and
never did.
After
No, we
said,
just kept giving you Big Finish stuff that spoiled all kinds of
Well,
stuff.
because that was
Yeah.
already
Or,
after he had
the
done
book
it.
I read, you know.
Yeah. See,
Not that.
I told you.
I read it to review it.
I told you spoilers. Don't read anything, and you said okay. And then you came back the next week and said, "So I got online and I looked up Traken and I went,
No, I didn't.
you most certainly did." That's why I said.
What else do we have on this
I
schedule,
even made the joke
Sean?
it was going to be the last thing ever.
Anything beyond that?
Yes, the following week we're going to do Legopolis.
I've shorted his brain out.
You did. What's the? I keep flipping them.
Well, it goes...
It's Traken, Legopolis, Castrovalva.
Legopolis, Castrovalva.
Well, those three are on the schedule for after
One week,
the
one
whole
week.
month.
one week,
Oh, okay.
1 week, and then
like that.
we'll wrap up that month with a talk about regeneration,
Yes.
because Keith will finally have seen
Finally.
all of the regeneration stories that exist that we have
Talking about regeneration.
so far.
So
And so we'll kind of go back and talk about this wonderful thing that happens to our hero.
Sean should have a feedback song for that week, and he should do it to My Generation.
Yeah, you
Talking
should.
about regeneration.
Well, yeah, it would require people to write feedback for that week. So,
Ben, you heard it here.
Get it in.
and obviously get your feedback in for Whobots.
Yes, we
Yeah,
want to know what who bots
What-
you
what
like.
do you
and,
like?
And you can defend whether they should be included in Sean's who bot discussion.
I'm throwing down my Infinity Gauntlet right now. I'm asking people to help me disqualify the course.
That's how stones get lost. Keith, if people want to send us feedback, how do they do that?
They can go to our website, travelingthevortex.com, and fill out the Send Us Feedback tab. Or to send it directly to feedback@travelingthevortex.com.
Hey, when you're at that website, why don't you click on that Patreon link and send us some money? You can do it there, and all of that money goes into this podcast, and we appreciate everybody that's already supporting us. Anything else we need to do before we close this one?
Nope.
That's going to do it for this week. Until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
Thanks for listening.
Grant is stupid.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.